Good afternoon. It's a beautiful day here in Pennsylvania. There's still a little nip in the air, but it's a great day to do some outside cooking. This is one of those days that my neighbors get mad at me because they have to smell my cooking all day. Today's dish is my Texas red chili, and the aroma will be spreading all over the RV park. Luckily, I always make enough that I can share and keep the pitchforks at bay. I hope you've had a chance to check out my new website. You can find this recipe along with all my previous shows and recipes there. I've also added some info about myself and the nomad life I live, so drop me a note there and let me know what you think. A Texas red chili, or chili con carne, is a tradition in Texas. Chili con carne translates to meat with chilies, so there are no beans in a true Texas chili con carne. Chili con carne became popular in Texas in the 1860s when chili queens would prepare their meat stewed with chilies and sell it as a street food. The street food created by these Mexican women has become a tradition in Texas and is the basis for our chili. Texans pride themselves on their ability to make a great chili. In keeping with its origins, beans in chili is frowned upon. If you must have beans in your chili, you can add some pinto beans near the end of the cooking time. My chili is a blend of good quality meat, 9 different chilies and peppers, onions, and tomatoes slow cooked to perfection. Don't be scared by all the peppers in this chili. It does have a kick, but it's not overpowering heat, and you can taste it, but it dissipates quickly and doesn't linger. Your taste buds will pick up the subtlety of layered flavors of the dish. So join me in a true Texas tradition, and let's make some chili. Prep time for the chili is about 30 minutes. Cooking time is anywhere from an hour and a half to 3 hours, depending on how long you want it to simmer and really get the meat tenderized. The serving for this is 10 to 12 people. You can store it in a refrigerator for a week and 6 months in the freezer. The ingredients for the chili: you're going to want 3 pounds of a good quality steak, 1 sweet onion, 1 poblano pepper, 1 fresh jalapeno pepper, 2 dried ancho chilies, 3 dried guajillo chilies, 1 7-ounce can of mild green chilies, 1 can of chipotle chilies in adobo sauce, a 1/4 cup of jalapeno nacho slices, an 8-ounce can of tomato sauce, a 14.5-ounce can of fire roasted diced tomatoes, about 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil, 2 tablespoons of minced garlic, a 1/2 cup of chili powder, a 1/2 cup of cumin, a 1/4 cup of paprika, a 1/2 teaspoon of cayenne pepper, a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 4 tablespoons of corn masa, and you're going to use 2 to 3 quarts of beef stock. So preparing this, the first step is I'm going to take my ancho and guajillo peppers, which are a dried pepper, and I'm going to cut off the ends of it. Let me cut those off. And then I'm going to pick those up, and I'm going to dump the seeds out. Okay, these dried peppers are at the heart of the traditional chili con carne, and taking these seeds out will keep the chili from being too spicy. Now I'm going to get a pot and put those chilies in the pot. Let me run some water. And I'm going to cover a couple inches of water in there. And then I'm going to put it on the stove and click that up. And I'm going to let that boil for about 30 minutes. So we're going to let that sit. Periodically, I'll push the chilies down to make sure that they're getting all covered with water. And that 30 minutes will allow the chilies to rehydrate and release all that good flavor. Now, while that's going on, I'm going to start prepping up everything else. So the first thing I do is I take the poblano pepper, and I'm going to slice the ends off and then slice down the middle. And here again, I'm going to remove the seeds out of this. So you might want to wear some kitchen gloves while you're doing this, just so you don't get all those pepper oils on your hand and then scratch your eye later. So anyway, I've got the seeds out. Let me chop those up into about 1/4 inch pieces. All right, let me set that aside. And now I'm going to do the same thing with the jalapeno. Cut the end off, slice it down the middle, take the seeds out with my knife, and then I'm going to dice this a little smaller, a little finer, into 1/8 pieces. All right, let's set that aside. Let me put these in a bowl. Okay. Now I'm going to take the onion and I'm going to dice this into 1/4-inch pieces. That all done. And let's set that aside. The next step you want to do is I'm going to take a mixing bowl and I'm going to put all the spices together and kind of blend those all together. So I'm going to add the chili powder. Add that. And now let me get the cumin, put that on top. And then the paprika, put that on top. Now I don't use a whole lot of cayenne pepper in this because it can get hot. I just want a hint of that flavor. So I use a small quantity. And then let me put just a little bit of salt in it. And then I'm going to take my whisk and I'm going to whisk and blend all these together. So they all blend together. And so later when I add this to the meat, they will be all mixed together. So next thing is to prepare the steak. And what you're going to do is I'm going to cut these into 1.5-inch chunks approximately, and then end up putting them in the food processor, or you can use the blender. I've used both. They both work fine. And today I actually found a good deal on beef tenderloin, but I've also used sirloin or ribeye. It all depends on what kind of meat you can find on sale. Using the good quality meat in a chili really enhances the flavor and the richness of the chili, and it also reduces the fat content. So if you do use ground beef, which you can use for this, it's not going to be quite as rich and hearty. You will need to drain off the fat after browning it. So I've got this meat cut up into chunks, and now let me take the lid off the food processor. It's going to take me a couple batches to get all this done. Let me put the lid back on. And it doesn't really take long to grind this. Okay. All right, let me take a look at that. Oh, yeah, that's fine. So it's a coarse grind. Let me put that in a bowl. Let me go back. Let's put the rest of the meat in. Yeah, let's do that one more time. Oh, let me turn back on. Okay. You want to make sure that, you don't overly grind it. Having some chunks in there in your chili is a good thing. It's kind of nice to be able to get some bigger bites. So now, let's see, it's been about 30 minutes now. Our chilies have had time to rehydrate. Yeah, the water's boiled down quite a bit. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take those chilies. Let me dish those out, and I'm going to put these in the food processor. And I'm going to kind of make a puree out of that. Okay. Get this back on, and let me hit puree. Okay. It doesn't take too long. And if you have some bigger pieces in there, that's fine. And now let me scoop this into a bowl. My spatula, here we go. Got that in a bowl, and our prep work is done. So now the next thing to do is let's move outside and get things going out there. So give me a minute while I move everything outside. I want to treat the neighbors to the aromas. Okay, so we're set up outside. I have a Camp Chef 2-burner stove that's really great for outdoor cooking. I also have flat top that can go on top of it, and that's helpful. And so it's a neat gadget to have. So I'm going to take my stock pot, and the first thing I'm going to do is add my vegetable oil. Put a little bit, about 2 tablespoons in the bottom. And then I'm going to start this and put that on high heat for now. And as that's heating up, I'm going to take my ground meat and put that into the pot. Let me stir that around and get this beginning to brown. All right, I can hear it sizzling and stuff in there. Now let me get my minced garlic and mix that up real good. And then let's let this simmer in here and kind of brown with stirring. And it'll take about 5 minutes. So let's let that heat up, and I'll check back with you in a minute. Okay, 5 minutes, and the meat's about halfway browned, so it's coming along nicely. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add the diced onions. Let me add those. Let me stir that. And we're going to let that cook in there as it's browning. I'm still on high heat. And in a couple minutes, those onions will have a chance to actually kind of release their flavor into it. We're smelling good. Now let's go ahead and take diced poblano and the jalapeno peppers. Dump those in. I'm going to stir it. Let that brown, and I'm going to let that cook for about 5 minutes. Let me turn down the heat just a little bit. Don't want to burn the meat, so I'm turning down to about medium heat now. And let's let that stew for about 5 minutes to get all those flavors blended. Okay, it's been 5 minutes. The meat is all brown now. The onions and the peppers are loosening up. And the next step is to take all the spices that we mixed together, the chili mix, if you will, and I'm going to put that in. Okay. And then I'm going to stir this really well. I want to really blend all those spices into the meat. So get that stirred. And then that's all mixed together. Now that's really kind of like thickened it up. It's those spices have kind of absorbed the juice that was in there. So I'm going to take the beef stock and I'm just going to add about a cup into the mixture. Add that in there. Give me a little liquid in there. Let me stir that in. If the meat's too dry, as you're adding the next set of ingredients, you risk burning the meat on the bottom of the pot. So that's why I add that beef stock in. So now, got that mixed in with that liquid. Let's take the pureed ancho and guajillo peppers, and let's scoop that in there. All right, and mix all that in. This makes the meat really red looking, so you're getting a really dark red color. All right, and like I said, we're on medium heat here. We've got some moisture in there. And let's add the rest of the ingredients. Let's start out with the green chilies. They're mild. They have a nice flavor to them. Put that in. Mix that up real quick. All right, now the can of chipotle peppers. And mix it up. Now I'm going to take the nacho slices and add those. The nacho slices, they're a pickled pepper, so they're a little different flavor than the fresh jalapeno that we added earlier. Got those mixed in. And then the tomato sauce. And let's mix that. And then let's take the diced tomatoes. That in and mix that all in. And if you notice, I stir between each ingredient so that each ingredient filters all the way through the chili. So those are in there. Let me take out my spatula. And now let me go ahead and pour the rest of the beef stock in. So I'm going to finish out that 1 quart container. I already took a cup out. I'm going to put the rest of that in. And let me add another one. All right. Let me stir that all good. Get that all mixed in. So we've got quite a bit of liquid in here. I added, it works out to about 2 inches on top of the meat or so. And now I'm going to want to bring this to a boil. So I'm going to go ahead and put a lid on this. It'll help to bring it to a boil quicker. And it'll take about 10 minutes to bring this to a boil. So let's check back in 10 minutes. Okay, so it's been 10 minutes now. Let me take the lid off and set that aside. And let me go ahead and give this a stir. And as you're cooking, we're going to cook this for about an hour. At a minimum, like I said, you may want to go a little bit longer, but let's start at an hour. And then we're going to add some other ingredients at that point. So I'm going to leave this open and let me turn this down to a simmer. And now is a great time to pop a top on a beer or fix yourself a cocktail and have some patience. You might also want to have some of my 2-minute salsa and guacamole to stack on, which you can find those recipes on my website on season 1. Let me fix myself a cocktail and I'll check back with you in an hour. Welcome back. It's really smelling good now. Some of my neighbors walking by, I'm starting to get that evil eye look as they go by. So it's been an hour. I've been stirring it, snacking some on my salsa and guacamole, and sipping my tequila. So now it's time for our last ingredient, the corn masa. So I'm going to go back inside so I can use the microwave. Okay, and I'm going to take a cup of the beef stock, and I'm going to heat that up in the microwave. We'll get that going. And now I'm going to take the corn masa, get that ready, and we are done. Take that out, it's heated, and let me get my whisk, and I'm going to add the corn masa into that mixture. Stir it up, get all the lumps out of it, and that heating the beef stock helps with that. It makes it easier to mix up. We're back outside. And now I'm going to take that masa mix and pour it in, stir it. Hey, y'all. Yeah, I'm making chili. It's almost done. Go ahead and drop by in a little bit for a bowl. I got plenty. Sorry about that. Some neighbors were walking by and smelt my chili. This happens all the time. All right, so now that the masa's added, I'm going to let this cook for another half hour. And what the masa does, it thickens the chili and it adds a unique texture and taste. And it also kind of helps with softening that heat from the peppers. So let's let this cook a half hour. I'll be back with you. All right, it's been a half hour. Boy, those aromas are really going. So let me just give it one last stir here. Let me get my tasting spoon. Let's grab a taste of this and blow on it. Boy, that's rich and hearty. You can really taste that meat. And using that beef stock instead of using a water really adds to the richness of it. You get a quick hit of heat from the spice, enough to wake up your taste buds, but it doesn't linger. And it's got a real nice, smooth, but little grainy texture from the masa. You're going to like this. So let me turn off the heat, and I'm going to go ahead and cover this. And I'm going to let this sit for about 15 minutes prior to serving. Let that just kind of sit and rest. Do that with steaks and everything else. They need to sit and rest for a little bit so everything can absorb back in. So enjoy your chili. I like to add some shredded cheese and sour cream on top of mine. And my guests will be here shortly to partake. And from the looks I've been getting around the neighborhood, I may have a few extra people showing up for dinner. So some serving recommendations. Like I said, it's great just on its own in a bowl with that grated cheese and sour cream. But you can also pour the chile con carne. It's great over tamales or cheese enchiladas. And it's hard to beat a chili cheese dog. It's a really hearty hot dog, let me tell you. And then I also like to take it and put it on a loaded baked potato. And then you have the potato as a complete meal with the meat and the potato all together. And then kids will love eating it in a Frito pie in the bag by a campfire. You just cut the side of the bag, add the chili on top of the Fritos, little cheese and sour cream, and just dig in with a spoon. So tips when you're making chili. Chili is better the next day. It really does. It sits well, and it just has time for everything to really blend together. Second tip is remove the seeds from all your peppers. This will cut down on the hotness of the chili. And as I mentioned before, you can substitute ground beef for the quality steak in the chili. If you do use the ground beef, be sure and drain the fat after browning. And also using ground beef, it'll also reduce the cooking time. One of the things, not everybody has access to the dried ancho or guajillo peppers. And so if you can't find those, don't stress about it. You can go ahead and leave those out. Your chili will still taste good. And one of the secrets of cooking chili is to do it slow and low. That allows all those flavors to blend together. And remember, if you cook your chili outside in an RV park, be prepared to feed your neighbors if you want to keep the peace. Now, for storing this, it does make quite a bit of chili, and after a while you get tired of eating chili, so I'll vacuum seal it and put it in my freezer. It's good for up to 6 months. It's easy to defrost and heat up if you have a cold spell, so you don't have to go to all the work of making chili every time. The last tip, add beans if you must. In Texas, if a chili has beans in it, it'll only have pinto beans. So you can add a couple of pinto beans to the chili prior to adding the corn masa. If I'm going to add beans, I make my own Mexican charro beans from scratch and then add them prior to the masa. The reason that you add them so late is you don't want the beans to totally break down. If you put them in early in the process, you won't even be able to really see the beans. So add those right before you add the corn masa. And down the road, I'll share with you my charro beans recipe. So I hope you enjoy cooking with me. Have fun making your chili and sharing it around the campground. My last episode was breakfast s'mores and mores. This was a quick, simple breakfast, and several people gave it a try and wrote. So let's get to the mail. First off, we had Gail from the Florida Keys. She says, "Hey, Kenny, tried Raven's breakfast s'mores, and I got to say they were surprisingly good. Simple to make and were a big hit. The kids didn't like the hot sauce, but you know how kids can get. So I made them one of your variations with the maple syrup. Great. Love your new website and what you wrote about yourself. Very interesting. Keep up the good work, but don't take so long to get out your next creation. I'm working on that, speeding up on getting the episodes out. Great to hear you, though, Gail. I can't wait to get back to the Keys. I'm glad the breakfast s'mores were a big hit, and thanks for commenting on my website. And now that website's up, I can focus back on my cooking again. So stay tuned for more great recipes. Thanks." Hal from Virginia stated, "Ken, I love your new website. Found it easy to get around and looks great too. Tried your breakfast s'mores and found them easy to make and really fast to prepare. I also have a recipe for s'mores, but it's not as quick to make, and I'd like to pass it on to see what you think. It's not my recipe. My wife found it online, but it's a good one." So, hey, Hal, glad you like the website. I'll give the French toast s'mores a try. Thanks for the recipe. Tim from Louisiana wrote, "Kenny, this is amazing. They're a great twist on s'mores. I love them. I'm glad you loved them, Tim, and thanks for watching." Janet from Ontario says, "This is my kind of breakfast. Dessert or anything in between. I'm totally sold. Looks and tastes amazing. I'm going to try every one of your alternatives to the dish. Thanks." So Janet, they are quick and simple, aren't they? And I know you'll enjoy all those variations. So keep watching, Janet. Joe from Denver stated, "Wow, I like the fact that it's quick and simple, easy to make, and really tastes great. Best breakfast I've had in a long time. Keep them coming. Thanks, Joe. The breakfast s'mores are surprisingly good. My next episode is going to be on pimento cheese, which is another quick, simple dish that I think you'll like. Thanks for watching, Joe. Ashley from somewhere in Florida says, "Hey, Kenny, I've had s'mores on the brain lately. I think it's all the heat. Being really hot down here in Florida, freezing everywhere else. But your breakfast s'mores sounded awesome, and I had to try it right away. Easy to make and gets my husband and the girls out the door quickly, and really not much to clean up afterwards. How fun is that? P.S. I love what you did to the new website." Ashley, no mess, no fuss is a great thing. Gives you more time to yourself. Thanks for cooking with me. So thanks for all the feedback and comments. Please keep them coming. My next episode is my take on a traditional Southern staple, pimento cheese. I'm surprised as to how many people have not tried this versatile cheese spread. You're going to love it. I put a nice twist on this fast and simple dish. And did I say it was tasty? I've picked up a couple new sponsors for future episodes, and I'm playing and perfecting new recipes to share with you. I do love playing in my kitchen. So I want to thank all of you from around the world for tuning in to Kenny's Kantina. I really appreciate you. And don't forget, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Kenny's Kantina wouldn't be possible without the help of my sponsors, IBC Productions and the Road Hogs Media Network. So a big thanks to them. See y'all on the road.